Welcome to the next chapter of this ancient story. After the fierce battle against the mechanoid attack, Sam and his team were exhausted but victorious. The base was eerily silent, broken only by the occasional hum of the mechs and the paperwork on the research table. And thanks to that meticulous study, Sam drew some precise plans that he provided to his partner, Sunshine, who made Sam a helmet that amplified his mechanoid power using the mecha chip and a bit of plasteel. This new helmet further enhanced the power that Sam already possessed, but that was not all. Thanks to his tireless research, Sam managed to improve pregnancy technology. He created a more functional and larger gestator to carry out the pregnancy of new companions. Additionally, he designed a recharging table for larger mechs and a subnucleus brain scanner. Large mechs needed precise copies of functional neural networks to ensure perfect gestation. This technology served as a basis for gestating robots to start with predefined guidelines and reduce the time needed for their gestation. However, Sam faced a dilemma. He couldn't test the new technology on any of his classmates. This was his own innovation, ancient reverse technology, and he could not endanger the integrity of any of the companions who accompanied him. Determined to verify the effectiveness of his creation, Sam decided to undergo the scan himself. With courage and conviction, he entered the machine, confident that his data was correct. The brain scanning machine was a marvel of ancient technology. Sam was carefully placed inside a transparent capsule, surrounded by a soft red light that created a serene atmosphere in the laboratory. A complex network of sensors and devices was connected to his head, ready to capture electrical and chemical signals from his brain. As the machine started, a soft hum filled the room. An electromagnetic field enveloped Sam's brain, allowing the machine to read his every thought and emotion with astonishing accuracy. The data was translated into patterns of light and shadow that danced on the control screens, revealing the most intimate secrets of his mind. For Sam, it was a surreal experience. It felt like his consciousness was being unraveled and translated into a digital language. As he watched the graphs on the screens, he could see three-dimensional visualizations of his own thoughts, each synaptic connection vividly represented. At the end, Sam, although dizzy and exhausted, felt satisfied, realizing that everything had gone decently well. Next to the scanner sat a new subcore, a simple artificial brain marked with the imprints of Sam's neural network, ready to reconfigure itself into a new mecha. Despite the sudden dizziness and nausea, Sam added the subcore along with some plasteel and various components into the new gestator. Each piece was assembled with care, like a delicate but crucial puzzle. As he worked, the lab vibrated with irrepressible energy, full of promise and possibility. Sam knew he had taken a bold step toward his destiny. While they awaited the birth of the new mecha, they transformed the floor of the main room with a soft parquet, using the best wood they had at their disposal. The dining room became an oasis of tranquility, filling it with a fresh, woody fragrance, creating a serene and welcoming atmosphere. In that environment, permeated by the intoxicating aroma of wood, Sam and his team eagerly awaited the arrival of the new mecha. A new energy wave resonated in the air, and Sam's intuition confirmed its origin. The new hull had connected with the mechanoid ships in orbit, which a few weeks ago had arrived attracted by the new mechanitor, revealing the position of Sam and his group. The first mechs landed in the south, near the base's granite wall. It was a mechanical cluster made up of several turrets, several mechs, and a climate regulator. At the moment, they were in hibernation, activating only by proximity and a countdown of 5 days. Sam felt an electric shiver through all his circuits, an electronic shudder that resonated through every mechanical limb. Shortly after, he perceived another cluster to the southeast, also in hibernation, blocking any escape or visitation from the south. Despite the threat, they felt safe within its walls. Mackenzie was cooking survival meals, meticulously packaged to prevent spoilage without refrigeration, preparing for the journey to the ship that could take them off the planet. In the midst of the tension, they clung to hope, keeping alive the flame of the possibility of escaping the inhospitable planet. Sam ran to the spawner and with a sigh of relief watched as a new mech was born, a tuner he named Scrambler. This heavy machine not only had the ability to mine resources, but also had great endurance and an energy shield that made it a robust and strong mech. They soon used the new addition to excavate the mountain northeast of the base for resources, staying safe behind the outer walls. Sunshine, with her vast knowledge of the dangers of digging under the mountain, did not hesitate to prepare Molotov cocktails, anticipating the dangers that lurked in the dark tunnels. Soon, their efforts bore fruit as they discovered valuable steel ore and mechanisms. Sam felt relatively safe inside the base. He knew that even if the mechanoids woke up, they wouldn't be much of a threat if they stayed within the walls. The climate regulator could be controlled with well-placed radiators, so they returned to their daily chores. However, this tranquility did not last long. As the clusters activated, another group landed to the west, on the other side of the canyon, immediately waking up. They did not represent great danger, except for one detail. Between the turrets and mechs, there was a mortar. Sam felt a chill run through his circuits. He was certain that he would begin bombing the base relentlessly the next day and had to devise a plan to deal with this new and serious threat. Hours of non-stop work bore fruit, culminating in the creation of a room with a mortar and pestle and a shelf filled with explosive pods. Sam occupied it immediately, feeling the exact location in his own flesh and circuitry, as if he could see the mechanoids across the mountain. He aimed and fired a single projectile that hit the cluster's power cell, causing it to explode and virtually eliminating the entire threat in a single hit. However, a pair of mechs, damaged but operational, managed to survive the large explosion. They charged towards the base, where Sam and his companions took up their usual positions in the defense room. The tension was palpable as they waited for the next assault, prepared to protect what they had worked so hard to build. The first Maker entered through the western entrance, activating each trap in the hallway and falling offline in the penultimate of them. In a bold and daring decision, Sunshine moved forward to close the western entrance, forcing the second mech to enter from the east. Although damaged, the mechanoid was more robust and larger than its predecessor, an imposing machine that overcame the traps as if they were mere shadows peering into the base. At that moment, gunfire echoed throughout the valley, pellets sizzling against the enemy's shell, and Sunshine lobbed electromagnetic pulse grenades to no avail. However, he calmed his nerves, and with a furious throw, he managed to push the grenade far enough to the skirts of that monstrous robot, stunning it instantly. All that was needed was a little more lead to break through the shell and permanently disconnect the enormous mechanoid. But the threat had not yet been completely eliminated. After disconnecting the security room, Sam made his way through the canyon to the mortar, which exploded after a few well-aimed shots. Without any apparent change of expression, he left the explosion behind him without even observing it, returning to the base as if nothing had happened. At that moment, Sam seemed confident, increasingly convinced that he must survive and completely merge with mecha technology, overcoming his fragile and mortal biological body. The determination in Sam's eyes shone brightly, unwavering in the face of the destruction he left in his wake. Each moment brought him closer to his destiny, to total fusion with the technology that had defined him, a necessary evolution to survive in that threatening world. He felt more than human. He felt like an amalgamation of flesh and machine, an unstoppable force ready to face any challenge. Under the soft afternoon light, Mackenzie and Sunshine decided to face each other in a duel of minds on the chessboard. Sam's father's experience shone brightly again, leaving everyone in awe of his mastery. With precise movements and impeccable strategy, he achieved a checkmate so beautiful that it seemed to have been woven with threads of genius. However, the overflowing pride and bragging that accompanied his victory did not sit well with Sunshine. The young miner felt insulted by the arrogant attitude of someone she didn't like at all. Meanwhile, Mackenzie mistakenly considered Sunshine a great friend, oblivious to the uncomfortable feelings that the miner kept inside. In the days that followed, the settlement experienced relative tranquility, during which the group concentrated on fortifying its defenses against the possibility of a mechanoid attack. However, that ephemeral peace disappeared as abruptly as it had arrived. Two lost travelers emerged from the southwest, wandering individuals who were simply passing through. Simultaneously, from the southeast, tax collectors from the Shattered Empire arrived with the mission of collecting tribute from Sam's settlement. The serenity was broken when they encountered the cluster of mechanoids to the east, initiating a frantic battle between life and death. The turrets fired metallic volleys, finding response from the unsuspecting Empire soldiers. In the midst of the chaos, the tax collector leader fell incapacitated, while several of her soldiers fled in terror. The bravest, although reckless, continued to fight for their lives. The mechanoid war had finally come to their world. The shooting continued for frantic minutes until a well-aimed shot damaged one of the turrets. It burst into sparks and, in an explosive chain, devastated the great steel mechanic, leaving only the mechanoid centipede to face the mob of wounded and disorganized soldiers. In an act of desperation, the shattered empire managed to destroy the mech in a burst of fire. Shortly after, Sunshine arrived on stage, intrigued by the abrupt end of the fight and the roar of the explosions. She discovered Iroha wounded and unconscious on the ground and, moved by kindness and bravery, decided to carry her towards the base with the intention of saving her. At that precise moment, the two travelers were within reach of the last mechanoid cluster, which responded with a hail of shots. Avery, brave and pale, charged with her spear against the mechs, while her companion Grump took cover behind some rocks, shooting arrows as if they could harm the mechanoids. However, Avery's bravery was not enough to resist the robot's onslaught of superhuman strength. Grump, on the other hand, took a direct hit from one of the mechanoid's laser, which set his clothes on fire, leaving him defenseless and dazed. Before he could react, a well-aimed shot left him unconscious, burning and with no hope of salvation. Tragedy loomed over them as the noise of battle dissipated on the wind, leaving only the echo of devastation and pain. The mechanoids advanced inexorably towards the base, with their metallic silhouettes silhouetted against the twilight sky. The wind whispered in Sunshine's ears. With adrenaline roaring through her veins, she ran towards the safety of the base. Each stride echoed in the earth, his heart beat in time with his steps, and every muscle in his body was tense, ready to react in an instant. Her eyes shone with a mixture of bravery and concern. She knew that every second counted, that his safety depended on his speed and endurance. The weight of the unconscious body on his shoulders seemed unbearable as he ran towards the base. For a moment, the idea of abandoning him crossed her mind, but the doors of the base closed behind her, protecting them from the danger that lurked outside, while the sound of traps being activated resounded, eliminating the first mech, which fell destroyed. Inside the base, Sam hurried to activate the new turrets in the defense room. The flickering lights of the lamps illuminated the night with a soft red, creating a tense and charged atmosphere. The second mech, passing through the last traps and entering the room, was greeted by a fan of gunfire, disconnecting it without offering any resistance. Sunshine finally reached a safe place, but the fundraising leader died a few meters from the hospital, in her own arms. The collapse of his lung and massive blood loss from a gunshot to the neck marked his tragic end. Meanwhile, the turrets and Sam took care of the last small militia trying to access the base, ending the threat. Without wasting a second, he headed towards the mortar without disconnecting the defense room. With boldness in his eyes, he carefully pointed towards the rest of the mechanoid cluster. The sun, just rising on the horizon, provided a dim but increasing light as the first rays of the day illuminated the scene. The rumble of artillery echoed in the serene valley as the shells fell with precision, hitting the heart of the enemy cluster. Each explosion was an affirmation of the group's will, a response to the harsh siege of the mechanoids. The destruction was gradual but relentless, tearing structures apart in a chaotic ballet of sparks and twisted metal. The explosions continued one after another until finally the two largest turrets, the pillars of the mech resistance, were reduced to smoking rubble. In the twilight of the day, as the pale sunlight faded over the horizon, Sam lined up with his soldiers at the base's entrance, determined to eradicate the last vestiges of the mechanoid cluster that threatened their home. With firm and determined steps, they advanced. Hiding behind strategic cover, Sam led the advance, while the enemy turret fired its deadly projectiles, missing their target in a desperate attempt to stop them. The 5 militars followed, sheltering from the turret's next shot that hit the nearby rocks, sending sizzling metal splinters into the air. Scrambler, the towering mecha with its flickering energy shield, boldly stepped forward, drawing the small turret's attention with his imposing presence. While the large mecha acted as a decoy, the militars and Sam took the opportunity to move strategically, slipping through the shadows of the battlefield, cunningly placing themselves within range of the turret. At a crucial moment, they began firing, and their weapons boomed that night, breaking the subtle mechanical hum that filled the air. After several failed attempts, Sam finally reached the critical point of the turret, firing with pinpoint accuracy. Scrambler dodged out of the way, just in time to avoid the impact of the explosion as the turret exploded in a cascade of sparks and metallic debris. However, in the midst of the hail of gunfire, a fateful mistake crept into Sam's skill. A missed shot hit his beloved mecha Spike, leaving a painful mark on his precious rear plate. Frustration flickered in Sam's eyes before he refocused on the battle with a spirit burning like the core of a star. Finally, they managed to destroy the enemy cluster, leaving behind an unstable energy cell, a dangerous treasure that they knew could be of great help in the future. The siege was over. They could breathe easy again, regaining control over the outside of their base. But that brief period of control vanished in a flash, a sling of energy cutting through the atmosphere again, heralding more imminent attacks. The guinea pigs in the area were once again affected by the energy boost, defenseless creatures that became the first indicators of the danger to come. Although they posed no significant threat, their agitation indicated that the enemies had located Sam, and now numerous mechanoid ships were heading towards their base with the clear intention of preventing any Mechanita knowledge from being discovered again. Some of the creatures failed to find the entrance to the base. It was then that Sunshine, brave, went outside to lure them into the traps. Taking a risk in the midst of danger, he achieved his objective, guiding the guinea pigs towards the entrance of the base, thus ensuring their elimination. They decided not to deactivate the defense room. They knew that more attacks were to come, and they prepared. And there it was, the biggest challenge Sam and his team had faced so far. 5 pikemen, 2 reapers, and, most disturbing of all, a war queen. A destruction machine equipped with a built-in generator capable of deploying deadly war urchins, a devastating tactic rarely seen on the battlefield. And so, on a cold day on February 3rd, 5503, Hassam realized, for the first time in his life, that he had become the primary target of mechanoid warfare. He realized that he was a mortal threat to the enemy, and that they would not rest until they hunted him down. The machines invaded the base from the east, and the first Reaper fell under relentless fire from the defensive turrets. The first 3 war hedgehogs deployed by the Queen occupied the turret's attention, while the second Reaper advanced. At that moment, Scrambler bravely launched himself to intercept it, his shield reverberating as he blocked the enemy shots. The pikemen and Queen stayed at the back of the room, out of range of fire from Sam's militars, as they continued to deploy hedgehogs at a steady pace. Scrambler, thanks to his energy shield, blocked the mechanoid's shots, while the rest of the group focused on destroying the hedgehogs that kept coming out. The battle raged for hours, and resources, in the form of bullets and hope, were depleted at a rapid rate. The first pikemen began to fall, and the carcasses of the hedgehogs piled up on the floor of the defense room. Scrambler continued to stop the shots effectively, suffering no apparent damage. The Queen resisted the attacks with her imposing steel armor, despite Sam's accurate shots that kept hitting the metallic giant. Finally, the last pikeman fell offline, leaving only the Queen and her hedgehog ships as the last bastion of resistance. Some turrets were running out of ammunition, as was the Queen, who could no longer deploy any more hedgehogs. Seeing that the Queen was alone and almost defenseless, Sam's militars advanced to get within range, surrounding the majestic but vulnerable machine. A volley of shots at the hull of the damaged machine echoed through the walls of the room, and after several volleys, the Queen fell offline. As soon as the gunfire subsided, everyone returned to their tasks, but Sam, without a second thought, headed towards the smoking remains. He knew that the Queen's chip, now turned into scrap metal, contained valuable information that could be key to understanding mechanoid technology and finding a way to resist its tireless attacks. If war came his way, he had to be prepared. There was no turning back. The future depended on his ability to unravel the secrets of his enemies. After the intense battle, they allowed themselves a precious respite before the next assault. They took refuge in the dining room, where music flowed from the 2 new speakers Mackenzie had painstakingly made. In that small space, in the midst of darkness and danger, they found a moment to celebrate life. They danced and danced, their laughter and movements filling the air with momentary joy that warmed their war-weary hearts. However, the short-lived peace was broken shortly afterwards during excavation work on the northeastern mountain. The unthinkable happened. They discovered a wall inside the mountain. As Sam approached, a terrifying thought crossed his mind. Although he couldn't fully understand why, he sensed imminent danger on the other side of the wall. Sam cautiously approached the enigmatic structure from time to time. The temptation to open the wall was mixed with the fear of the unknown. In his mind, uncertainties were accumulating. The obsession with discovering what was hidden behind it had tormented him. With enemy ships lurking in orbit, Sam was faced with a daunting dilemma that he knew he would have to face sooner or later. Thanks for watching the episode. See you in the next one. Bye.